Let me give y'all a story time about a time that I encountered what I believe to not be a real person. And when I say not a real person, I believe that this person was not amongst the land of the living. Or I don't know. I don't think that she was a real person. So I think that she was an entity, or there was an entity inside of her. And so let me explain myself. If you don't believe in a supernatural realm or a realm outside of what you're living in now, then this video might be hard for you to grasp. So maybe about maybe March, April. It was April. I had been going through a lot. I had been really sick, in and out of the hospital, just battling a lot. And I felt like I was like under spiritual attack, because every time I went to the hospital, they were having trouble finding things. You know, it was just like a lot of back and forth. And it was just like, so the attack was so great. I felt like it was just not of this realm. Like, you ever go through something so crazy, so traumatic, that you're like, God, this don't even make no sense. The stuff that's happening don't even make sense. Like, that's where I was at that point in my life. So this one particular night, I had been having some issues. I had been in and out of the hospital, but I was feeling better. But my mom came down to stay with me. She came down from out of town to be with me. So I was coming from work, and I worked out of town. So I was like maybe 3 hours away, and I was finishing up a contract. So this particular night, I was on my way home, and I called my mom. I was like, hey, do you need anything from the store before I get home? Because I got to pass the store anyway. Now, this store by my house, at that point, I had never been inside of the physical store, but I would always get gas at the pumps, like, because they have tap to pay. So I never had to physically go in. But this night, my mom was like, no, it's fine. And she was like, well, you know what? You can stop and get me such and such. So I pulled up to the store. When I pulled up, I immediately noticed that it had to be about almost 10 o'clock at night. There was not a lot of people in the store. There was the clerk. There was one person at the counter playing lottery. And there was myself. And then there was a young lady in the store. Now, I went up to in my mind, I was like, well, let me scan the store and see if there's anything that I would like. Like, if I see a snack, I'm going to get it. So I just did a quick little 1-2 throughout the store. I didn't see anything. I was already tired from driving. So I turned around from the cooler to get ready to make my way toward the checkout counter. And in the aisle behind me, maybe about 5 feet away from me, there was a Caucasian girl. And when I turned around to her, she was facing me. She had nothing in her hands. She didn't appear to be shopping. I can't even put an age on her, guys. You know how normally you can guess about a person's age, or maybe generalize them and say she was a young girl, she was an older lady, she was middle age. I couldn't put age on her at all. When I turned around to her, when I turned around to look at her, she might have been about my height. She had shoulder length, strawberry blonde hair. Like, it was like it wasn't strawberry blonde. It was the reddish brown looking hair. It was about right here. And her face was ghostly pale. And I'm not one to judge off appearance, because I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for a long time. So I know that there are illnesses that can affect a person's appearance. This was not like that, y'all. This was nothing like I had seen before. She was the color of this binder. Her face was the color of this binder, but not in a skin textured way. Her face had a kind of almost textured look, like a flaky, floury, ill look. But that wasn't it. That wasn't what did it. When I turned around, she said, we locked eyes. Okay, when I turned around, we locked eyes because she started speaking to me. Her head was positioned in a very unnatural way. She was like, you're so pretty. And when we locked eyes, my heart dropped. I had a feeling of dread, of fear that consumed me. And she was giving me a compliment, but everything about her gave unnatural. Everything about her gave unreal. Her head that was tilted to the side like this, the way it cocked this way when she spoke to me, her face was pale. It looked like she was sick. Her lips were like a strawberry, like a cherry red. Her eyes were like a greenish brown. But it was everything about her body movements, everything about her tone, everything about the way she looked at me that scared me. My heart dropped, y'all. And I'm going to tell you exactly who she looked like. I don't know if you guys remember the movie The Exorcist, the original one. She looked exactly like the little girl that was sick in that movie. And I don't watch scary movies. I don't bring scary movies into my house. This is a movie that I saw as a child that I probably watched with my cousins growing up. That's how I was able to identify. And so I said, thank you. And I made my way to the counter. When I went to the counter, she didn't continue. I don't even know what she did behind me. I made my way to the counter and I checked out. I got in my car and I was so scared, y'all. I turned around and checked my back seat. I looked in the back seat. This is how scared I was. And as I'm backing out of the parking lot, the convenience stores, they have glass panes. So I'm driving really slow, looking like to see, is she checking out? And I saw her sweatshirt briefly in the store, but I didn't see it anymore. And then I looked at the cars, like, I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm looking at the cars, like, what kind of car could this young old lady be driving? Like, because she wasn't old enough to where she was just hanging out in the convenience store. She wasn't hanging out. There was nobody. It's not a convenience store where people loiter. She wasn't young enough to just be in there just doing nothing. She would have had a purpose. But I never saw her anymore. Like, I saw her sweatshirt, but then it's like she turned around from the counter again. But y'all, when my husband called me, I said, can I tell you something? He said, what? I said, I think I just saw a spirit. I said, everything in me feels like she was not real. I said, in the energy shift that I felt when I locked eyes with her, I'm terrified. I was scared driving home. When I got to my house, I told my mom about it, and my mom immediately said, she said, Neek, she said, that wasn't a person. She said, that was a spirit. She said, and if she was a real person, God allowed you to see the spirit that was operating in her, or a demonic entity that was in her. Pause, y'all. I told y'all that I had been battling a sickness that month. So that morning on my way to work, I was listening to my prayer, my worship. I was listening to a sermon. And at the end of it, I was praying and I was asking God to reveal to me what was going on around me. And I said this prayer, like, reveal to me the spirits inside of people, like allow them to expose themselves, just because I just wanted clarity about the people that I was around and that was in my space, because I was just going through so much. Fast forward to this encounter, I had forgotten that I even prayed that prayer until my mom brought it back to me. She was like, and if it was a person, God maybe just allowed you to see the demonic entity that was operating on that person. Y'all, I don't know if y'all believe me or not. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this or felt this way or not. Listen, everything in me tells me that I didn't encounter a real person, that she was not a real person. That was a spirit, that was an entity, that was something that God had allowed me to see with my spiritual eyes. The fear that I felt, the dread that I felt when I locked eyes with her, I looked at her, my heart dropped. I immediately felt panicked. I felt scared. I felt like, this ain't right. She ain't right. Her body movements was very unnatural. Her hips like this. She said, you're so pretty. And her head popped up like this. Her voice, she didn't look young enough to possess a voice that sounded so childlike. You're so pretty. That's how she spoke. I definitely believe that everybody walking the street with us is not amongst us. Let me know if y'all have ever experienced anything like that. But that's just my story.
Y'all ready for another creepy ass story time? This is the night where the devil decided to pay our little club a visit. And sadly, this is the last night I ever saw my friend. This takes place in Los Angeles, California. I'm 19 years old. I've been dancing for about a year at this point. And I've got one really good girlfriend. This is before I met Carmen. Her name is Aranza. And that is her real stage name. So I have to give you a quick rundown first about Aranza. Aranza is from Brazil. She is a widower, lost her husband in a tragic car accident. She's got 2 kids that are in Brazil, and she's got 2 sets of grandparents to take care of. She's got to take care of her parents and her husband's parents, right? So all financial responsibility falls on Aranza. That is why she was here in the U.S. dancing. Now, Aranza is very religious. I know. Don't fucking say nothing. Just because we're dancers doesn't mean we don't love Jesus. I met her 2 months into dancing, so like 10 months total, right? She went to church every Sunday. Didn't swear, didn't drink. She didn't have a mean bone in her body. Very nice girl. And she always expressed guilt for being a dancer. You know what I mean? Like, she was really, really ashamed of it, but she felt trapped. Like, she couldn't do anything else. And she had a whole family to take care of in Brazil that were depending on her. And a 9-to-5 just wasn't going to cut it. She still had to take care of herself and pay her own bills too. So one night, me and Aranza are at the club, and this particular night, it is popping the fuck off, and I don't mean in a good way. This particular club was very small and very chill. I never saw girls fighting or customers fighting, nothing like that. It was super, super, super chill. So drama there was rare. There were a total of 3 fights, 1 between girls in the back and 2 between customers, and these were all separate little fights. I'm chalking this shit up to a full moon, the lunar cycle or some shit. All of these fights happened within a span of 1 hour. Then in comes this man. And this is the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my entire life. Still to this day. And I remember his face very well. He was very devilishly handsome. And I use that word on purpose because that's kind of what you would imagine the devil looking like. He had very sharp features, a very sharp jawline, a sharp nose. You know what I mean? Beautiful jaw lines, like just he was fine. He was fine. He walks in, grabs his drink, sits down. All the girls come up to him one by one, trying to small talk with him, trying to ask him for a dance, and they just get up and walk away. He's not interested. And I can hear the girls sitting next to me that had already walked up and talked to him. I can overhear them saying, like, that guy was creepy. He's just a creeper. I can't ask them anything, though, because I'm sitting down with my regular. I'm having a conversation, and I don't want to be rude. Everyone has approached him except Aranza. Aranza's standing at the bar. But I noticed, because he's fine as hell. I'm staring at him, because after I'm done with this regular, I'm walking my ass over there. I noticed, though, I clocked that he is staring at Aranza. So after I'm done talking with my regular, I walk up to Aranza, and I'm like, girl, that fine-ass motherfucker is staring at you. Go over there and make your money. And she's like, I don't know, man. All the girls are saying he's kind of creepy. And I'm like, bitch, do you know where the fuck you are at right now? This is a nudie bar. All the guys are here are fucking creepy. Quit being a baby. I wish I never did that. Another one of my regulars come in, so we get to talking. While we're talking, I noticed that man got up and is walking toward Aranza. They're standing at the bar and they're talking. They went back and forth for about 5 minutes, I'd say. I see them head toward the VIP section. The VIP section is separate from like just the regular dances, right? The VIP section, you're going to be in there for at least 20 minutes. 5 minutes later, I don't even think it was 5 minutes, that man comes strolling out of the VIP. When he strolls out of the VIP, this man gives me a smile that I will never forget. Look, I got the chills. I will never forget this smile. His smile looked like a shark. That's the only way I can describe it. You know that shark Bruce from Finding Nemo? That's what that fucking man looked like. That was that smile he gave me. Instantly, my stomach is in my ass. I feel like throwing up. I race back there because I know something is wrong. I'm thinking something happened. They should have been back there for at least 20 minutes. I'm thinking he SA'd her or like physically assault. I don't fucking know. I'm thinking he hurt her. I kicked my heels off and everything and booked it back there because I wanted to get back there as fast as possible so he wouldn't get away just in case he did something crazy to her. So I get back there and she's sitting in the booth, right? I'm looking at her and she's like, catatonic. Bitch, you know what the fuck I mean. She's stuck. She's just stuck. She's got like the fucking 1,000-yard stare. She's like looking past me. She won't talk to me. She won't fucking say anything. I'm scared. I'm like tapping her cheek and shit. I'm doing that for like 5 fucking minutes. I'm examining her body. I don't see any signs of an assault. Like I don't see any injuries. I don't see her like bikini ripped or nothing like that. So I'm like, what the fuck happened? She fucking snaps out of the shit, right? And she just pushes me. She pushes the fuck out of me and I fall over. I'm like, well, bitch, what the fuck? She jumps up and takes off running to the fucking dressing room. By the time I get my ass up and take my ass to the dressing room to see what the fuck is going on, this bitch damn near tackles me, like on her fucking way out. But I stop her. I block the fucking door. Her panic is making me panic. And I want to know why the fuck we are panicking. And should I be fucking leaving too? Did he threaten to shoot this bitch up? Tell me what the fuck. This lady looks me dead in my eyes and tells me, and I quote, I saw hellfire in his eyes and we need to repent. You saw what? She pushes past me and leaves in the middle of her shift. Now I'm stuck like a fucking deer headlights. What the fuck do you do with that? I finished my shift. For the next 3 days, I'm calling her. I'm going straight to voicemail. I'm texting her. No response. On the 4th day, I go to her apartment. I've been there a million times. We were friends. I get to the apartment. I'm knocking at the door. I peer through her window because I want to know if she like fucking hiding from me or something. And my fucking heart sinks. Everything is there like normal except her pictures. She had pictures of her family all over the walls. And when I saw that they were missing, I knew she was gone. It looks like she left everything and she had some really nice shit in there. I knock on the neighbor's friend because we were cool with him. We had hung out with him a few times, right? I knock on his door. He opens the door. Her dog comes out. She had a dog that she absolutely loved more than life itself. I ask him, I'm like, have you seen Aranza? Like, do you know anything? What the fuck is going on? He's like, yeah, she came over here a couple of nights ago. Asked me if I could take, if I wanted the dog, she had to go home to Brazil. And I'm like, what? I was both stunned, I was sad, I lost my friend, but also like terrified because I knew she fucking saw something to have been so fucking scared to just up and leave like that. You leave the fucking country, like, what did you see? I know she saw the devil. I know he was a devil or a demon. He was something. He was something fucking scary. And I believe wholeheartedly that that night the veil was like super thin. And him, like all those fights breaking out right before he comes, you know what I'm saying? Like that energy, that chaos that the devil brings or that demons bring, like that's what that was. That was like kind of his announcement. Because after he left, I finished my shift. The shift peaceful. Nothing popped off. Only right before he came. I think he was there with a mission. I think he was there specifically for Aranza. And I hope this video some way, somehow makes it to Brazil. Aranza, if you see this, I miss you. Just let me know you're okay, girl. What happened?
If you don't think demons are real, y'all might want to stick around for this story. So I'm going to tell you guys a personal testimony of mine about the first time I ever got delivered before, and the first encounter I ever really had with demonic entities, demonic presences, and why deliverance is so necessary in the body of Christ. So this was around 2019. I was trying to find God, but I was still living in an unrepentant lifestyle. Like I was still engaging in sexual sin. I was cussing. I was partying. I was drinking. I was doing a whole bunch of things that, you know, would invite demonic forces into my life. Now, at this current time, I was in college and I was about to go to nursing school. So I was finishing up a couple of prereqs and I was in a class. It was one of the last classes that I needed to get into the program. So I remember sitting in this class and there was like a group of us in the class and a bunch of us were all applying to the nursing program. And something that we all had to take was a TEAS exam. Now with this exam, like for some people it was really hard, for some people it wasn't. And I'm not gonna lie, for me it was not that hard. And I took the study materials and I passed the test. And I remember coming to class and saying like, yeah, I passed, guys. This is the book I used, blase, blase. So there was a specific girl in my class who at the time, even the first day I met her, like if you guys watch my video about me having the gift of discernment, as soon as I saw her, I got that uncanny feeling of like, kind of be cautious with this girl, but like, I didn't really have any tangible evidence of anything she did to me other than just that feeling to be cautious with her, right? And she asked me, hey, like, you passed the exam, right? So I'm like, yeah, I passed the test. Like, this is the study book I use. Like, I got it from Amazon if you want it, like, whatever. And she's like, oh, okay. I will also say this too, prior to this exchange, she did mention that she had been trying to take this TEAS exam for several years and she just was not able to pass it. And she was at her wit's end getting like desperate to pass the exam. Okay, that's really important. So after she says, oh, okay, I say, you know, if you want, like, I mean, since I'm done taking the test, you can have my book. Like, it's not really a big deal. Like, I don't really see anything of it. And she's like, yeah, actually, I'm going to need exactly your book. I'm going to need your book and your book only. So I was like, okay, like I said, I'll bring you my book. You can have it. I'll bring it tomorrow though. I'm not going to bring it today. And she's like, you better bring the book. Like, I'm so serious. You need to bring your book to me like immediately. And I'm still kind of like, okay, like I'll bring the book for you. But I just thought the whole exchange was kind of off-putting. And then after that, I didn't really think anything of it. So I go home that night and I tell my mom like, oh yeah, mom, like this girl in my class, like she was being kind of weird. Like I told her I was going to give her my book so she can study. And she like was kind of like weird and like insistent that I bring the book to her and like made it a big deal and like thought it was kind of weird, but I'll still probably give her the book anyways. But at the same time, like I just thought that was super weird. My mom, my sister were all kind of like laughing it off. We're like, yeah, that's so weird. Like, you know, whatever, but at least you passed your exam type deal, right? So that night I go to bed, it's a normal night. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, my mom comes running in my room and she's like, did you give that girl your book? And I'm like, no, I didn't give her my book. Why? And my mom's like, do not under any circumstances give that girl your book. I just had the weirdest dream. I don't want to tell you what I saw, but I just want to say to you, like, it's weird. So I'm kind of like, okay, mom, like, you're being dramatic. Like, I have a Haitian mommy. You know, Haitian parents, they just always having dreams. So I didn't really think too much of it. I said, okay, mom, whatever. You know, I didn't give her the girl the book. And then, you know, I took the book and I put it in my bag to give it to her. But for whatever reason, I just could not give her the book. So this whole exchange happened like on a Monday. And this was Tuesday, now the new day. And I just remember that morning passed. I didn't see the girl in the class. And then I didn't end up giving her the book. But I started to feel very weird, and I couldn't explain why. Just for context, back in that time, I had never experienced depression, anxiety, or anything of that sort. So all of a sudden, that Tuesday, I just started feeling extremely just heavy. It's like my mind would not silence, and I felt very, very, just a lot of thoughts were racing through my head, but like stuff that I genuinely did not want to think about, and I could not stop the thoughts from forming. I also started to notice I felt like myself in an extreme mental fog, and it almost felt like unnatural, like I couldn't control it. And I started also getting these extremely blasphemous thoughts, these really weird thoughts, like just things that I'm like, this is not how I feel, but why do I keep hearing this stuff? And just to not make it like, so that TikTok doesn't take this video down, like I was getting thoughts for me to like myself. I was getting thoughts about God is not real, you're ugly, you need to die, nobody wants you, just a whole bunch of stuff that I never thought about before that incident. Now this continued for days, guys. I mean, this happened on Tuesday. By like Wednesday, Thursday, my friends started getting very concerned. Like they were almost like, what's going on with you? Like, this is not like you. Like, you're not responding. You're not talking. I just felt so low and so drained, and the thoughts were racing through my mind. I felt like I wanted to isolate myself. I was trying to read my Bible, and I kept getting blasphemous thoughts while I'm reading the Bible about this is fake, this is not real, God is not real, you're going to go to hell, and all of these things. And I just could not shake the feeling. So like I said, prior to this point, I had never really knew about demons. I didn't really know about deliverance. I just knew that I didn't feel right and I felt funny. And every time someone mentioned anything to me about God, I immediately felt myself getting into like a rage. So since I lived with my mom at the time, she started to notice like my behavior was off, and she's like, what is wrong? And she kept saying like, I'm going to pray for you. I don't know what's wrong, but I need to pray for you. And it actually got so bad that one of my best friends called my mom and said like, hey, I know you don't understand this, but your daughter needs to come to church this Friday because we need to pray for her, because this is not normal. Now at the time, my best friend was already actively walking in deliverance. She was already familiar with it. They already knew the signs of when somebody was getting oppressed by demonic entities, but I also was kind of skeptical, and I didn't believe that this was a thing. I just thought that I was going through something. So Friday comes, and my friend's like, please, 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 if you do nothing else, I need you to come to church. And if you feel the urge to really not come, you need to come even more. So that Friday comes, I feel so low energy. I feel so drained. I feel so overcome with the desire to not go to church, because I just could not. For whatever reason, church seemed like everything I did not want to go to, and that was just so not in my character. I ended up showing up to church 30 minutes late, which if you know me, I'm really not a late person. And as soon as I got in church, I just felt angry. Like an extreme amount of anger came over me. I felt tense. I felt worried. I felt like I need to get out of here. And I just remember sitting down in church and staring at the wall and feeling so upset. And all of a sudden, the more that people started praying, the more that people started talking, the more I started feeling like this uncontrollable urge to just like, I need to get out of here. And as soon as I was getting ready to collect my things to leave, one of the church members came over to me and she said, I need to pray for you. And the Holy Spirit told me to come up here and be gentle when I spoke to you. I just remember this lady came to me and said, did you try to give someone a book this week? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, that girl used that book to put witchcraft on you. And she said, and if you desire prayer today, like, we will break the demonic ties right now in the name of Jesus. And I was just like, yeah, yeah. And I remember they started praying for me, and I just started weeping and crying and feeling heat all over my body and feeling weak at the same time, and then also feeling like just this presence rise up out of me. And also I could feel it leave. And I just remember after the entire deliverance session was over, just feeling like so relieved. And ever since that day, I really went back into the Bible and really tapped in and saw, like, yeah, Jesus spent primarily 95% of his ministry casting out demons, healing the sick. And it opened my eyes to the fact that, wow, like, we live in a world that is not flesh and blood, but it is purely spiritual, like God said. And guys, when I tell you, after that, God has opened my eyes to so many more things. Like, I can literally see demons manifest now in people's face, and it's just, y'all gotta stay prayed up out here.
5 years ago, I performed a demon summoning ritual for podcast downloads, and it ruined my life. Get on my level, Austin McBrib. So I used to be the producer of this podcast network.
Called AE Radio, this is what it looks like. Go listen to it, it's awesome.
One of the shows I wrote and hosted was called Underground Files. And when I tell you we did it all, man, true crime, aliens, cults, all kinds of stuff. We had a couple Florida Man episodes. Now, professionally, I was having the time of my life. I was getting paid to talk about all the stuff I liked while working with my best friends. Personally and psychologically, however, I was dealing with a lot, not even counting watching my marriage disintegrate before my very eyes, and multiple of my friends having very serious mental breakdowns. I was also dealing with a pretty severe, totally untreated or diagnosed case of CPTSD, and was frankly incredibly close to just unsubscribing altogether. Suffice it to say, I was in a pretty unhealthy mental state, so just keep that in mind when you listen to this story. So during a production meeting, we started throwing around the idea of a demonology month. Demonologist history, the history of the Catholic Church appropriating different cultures' deities and turning them into demons, you know, nerd stuff. And then the big finale would be Katie summons a demon. This is stupid, I'm aware. But as I said, my well-being in general wasn't much of a priority, much less my spiritual well-being. So I pressed record, picked a demon I liked, got the stuff he liked, spilled some blood on the ground, and drew a sigil and asked for a couple favors.
Which was dumb. Don't do that.
Like, I genuinely don't care what religion or faith you have. I didn't think this was going to do anything. And again, it ruined my life. So I asked him if he could help us out with our podcast and make it successful. Spoilers, it did do that for a while. For a time, we were the most popular podcast in the state. What else happened was one of my best friends got arrested, my marriage finally fell apart, and I got in a horrible car wreck the next day, and my best friend's mom died. Now, most of my friends at this point were like, Katie, this can't all be you. You're not that powerful. Coincidences happen. And then they found out that this demon that I summoned was a water demon. And if you lived in Washington State during the winter of 2018, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We got the most snow we had in over half a century. About 5 or 6 of my best friends' pipes froze that winter. And every single job I've ever had got plumbing issues immediately after hiring me when they didn't have any plumbing issues beforehand. At that point, my most skeptical friends were going, fix it. Now. In my attempts to fix it, I went to anybody that would listen. Hoodoo elders, coven leaders, Reiki healers, anybody. All of whom yelled at me, by the way.
If you've ever been yelled at by a Reiki healer, it's like your grandmother that you adore telling you she's not mad, she's just disappointed by like 5,000. After years of healing, therapy, following those spiritual leaders' advice, an incredible support system, it's kind of like having an annoying roommate rather than a demon following you around. And I've actually managed to rebuild my life from the ground up. I'm not podcasting anymore, but I became a tattoo artist, and I became a mom, and I got engaged to the only male Virgo I've ever met that's nice to me. That's a joke, he's amazing. I've actually started writing a book about it. So what have we learned today, kids? Don't summon demons, that's bad, and I don't think the popsicle lip look works for me. It just looks messy.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. Oh, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this. 2012, when me and my wife started dating, we got our first apartment. We moved in. Everything was running smooth. We settled. Everything was cool. Until a week later, we started hearing, little noises. Things were being knocked down, like, the bookshelves. And, we looked at each other. We're like, We kind of shook it off like it was no big deal. So then things started to get a little crazy. So we fell asleep one night. And then the next day, my wife asked me, hey, why were you playing with my feet last night? And I looked at her like, playing with your feet? Why would I be playing with your feet? And she was like, you were tingling my feet and you were kind of like pulling me, towards the end of the bed. And I was like, that was not me. I don't know what you're talking about. So she kind of gave me a look like in shock, like then you can kind of tell like that she was scared. But then again, we kind of like shook it off like, oh, it might have been a dream or something like that. Then the next night she woke me up and it was like, I think it was like somewhere around 2 o'clock, somewhere around 2:30. And then she's like, did you play with my hair? Did you put your hands like in my hair? And I was like, no. So she got really scared and then she kind of like scooched over towards me and like hugged me. And then I was like, what's going on? And she was like, she couldn't even talk. So that same night we moved to the living room and we slept on the couch. So the next day we went to our normal routine. Like, again, we kind of shook it off because we never experienced this before together, so we kind of shook it off again. Like, I guess she was just like, she didn't want it to sound like she was crazy or anything like that. And I didn't want it to make her feel like, oh, maybe you're just tripping about something, So we were back to our room and we noticed that as me and her are talking, like as we're trying to sleep, she can't sleep, I can't sleep. So we're talking to each other and next thing you know, it's like somewhere around 12 o'clock. We hear something in the bathroom being knocked down. Bloof! I think it was like the body wash or something. And I looked at it, I was like, it was probably the body wash, like whatever. So then we freaking saw the freaking door for the bathroom open by itself. And then I was like, yo, screw it. Let's go to the living room. Let's go sleep on the couch. We slept on the couch that night. And it just gets crazy. So nothing happened after we went to the couch. And the next morning, we had an iPad that we were sharing together. So we used to make, like videos and all that type of stuff, like joking around. So I was going through the videos and I saw the background on one of the videos was pitch black. And I'm like, wow, like who was recording? Like, what is this? So I played the video and then I immediately called her. Like I called her phone while she was at work because I got out of work before her. So I was like, yo, you need to come home. I need to show you something. She's like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, you need to come home. I need to show you something. So when she got home, I played the video for her. And it literally looked like somebody picked up her iPad. You can see the iPad being picked up. And then it started recording. And then it started walking towards something. And then when we saw what was recording, it was recording me and my girl sleeping on the couch and we both snoring. And it's like literally on top of us, recording us. And we were like, what the heck? Like, we started freaking out. I'm like, yo, is there somebody in our house? Like, there's somebody in our apartment? Like, what the hell is going on? Immediately I started checking the whole apartment. I checked underneath the bed. I checked the closet. I checked the bathroom. I checked everything. I called the maintenance people for the apartment. I called the apartment complexes and everything. I got in contact with the manager. I let her know, like, yo, like, you got anything to tell me about this apartment? No. Everything's good. What's going on? And I'm like, nothing, because I don't want to tell them the reason, why I was calling, because I don't want to sound like I was, cuckoo. Nah. So it was crazy. And so this is when I got my confirmation. This part was crazy. I don't think it's crazier than the video and somebody recording us from the iPad, but I think this one was just like straight confirmation for me. So I took the day off because I had to take care of her dog. She had a little Chihuahua. His name is Rico, and she had nobody to take care of the dog. So I'll stay home, stay and watch the dog, and I was just playing my normal Call of Duty. And the next thing you know, I see the dog looking towards the room. And then it started shaking, but it was looking at something. And it wouldn't stop looking at something. So then the dog ran next to me and lay next to me like it was afraid. It was shaking. I was like, Rico, what's going on? You okay? And like I'm petting him and everything, trying to calm him down. And then next thing you know, I hear a loud blah on a wall. Like somebody punched the wall real hard in our room. And I got up and I was like, what the heck was that? So I went and I started looking towards the room. Like, what was that? So sometimes my wife has this little box with a whole bunch of pictures and stuff that she puts on the top of the shelf. And sometimes it slides down and it falls. And I'm like, it's probably her box. So I went into the closet, checked the closet. The box was still out there, and I'm like, what was that? So then I checked the other side of the bed, and I normally got these lights for like fog lights for cars, and I put it inside the closet. It's like a very deep inside closet, but it's open, right, where you can stack the towels and everything. It was all the way in the back, and I'm the only one who can reach it because I'm tall, so I put it all the way to the top, and I reach over it and grab it, right? When I started doing the math, and I was like, it shocked me because when I looked on the other side of the closet, my fog lights were all the way from here all the way over there. So I started doing the math. I was like, somebody had to physically grab the lights and throw it like as hard as they can to the wall. Like the wall had a hole. And I started like, whoa, like, no, I ran outside. I ain't gonna lie. Listen, I'm 6'5". I ran outside. I grabbed the dog and I was sitting outside, and I waited for my girl to come home so I can break it down to her. So she got home, and then we both walk into the room, and next thing you know, as I explained the things to her, the freaking closet door opened by itself. Literally, it just went like, beep, all the way open. My girl jumped into my arms, and we're like, yo, that's it. So we started gathering information. I talked to the person in the apartment complex. Listen, tell me the truth. What's going on? What's the history in this apartment complex, right? So he told me that somebody unalived himself in there. Yep. And yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Somebody unalived himself in there, and it happened last year before we moved in. Crazy, huh? So yeah, I go to church and stuff. So we started praying for the apartment, and the next thing you know, we opened the door. When I tell you that things started going crazy in the apartment, the rug, the carpet was wet out of nowhere. The TV was wet out of nowhere, and after that, everything was good. Everything was good after that. So, yeah, we straight up had a demon in the house. We had a demon in our apartment. And then we ended up finding out that right next to us, there used to be a woman, and she was a witch. And my wife caught her doing weird things. And then she went back into her apartment. And next thing you know, I think like a week or two, she was no longer living in there. crazy. That's my story.
Grandma met the devil. Story time. So when Grandma was in her late teens, she had a child out of wedlock, and this man abandoned her. So at this point, her parents were pushing her to get married to someone new. That's how it was back then. She's sitting in the old Chevy with her friend at a burger place when this really tall, dark, very attractive man walks up behind the car, stops, turns around, and comes back to her window and leans in. My grandma was very modest, but she openly admitted this was the most attractive man she had ever seen in her entire life. He didn't even look real. She didn't even think people could look this way because he was so perfect, so handsome. He was about 6'5", 6'6" tall. He had jet black hair, bright green eyes, big lips, and pretty white teeth. He was dressed in all black. Black coat, black shirt, black pants, and black shoes. So he leans down in the window and they start talking. He says his name is Sammy, he's new to town, and he's just trying to make some new friends. So my grandma and her friend, being the sweet, kind people they were, they invite him to come sit down and have a burger with them. He was very quiet and shy, but he only talked to her. He didn't say 2 words to her friend, so she thought maybe he liked her. And they ride off and ride around town all night, just talking and hanging out. Here's where it starts to get weird. Grandma said when she went to drop him off, she asked him, "Where do you stay?" He said, "Well, I don't have a home, I just came to town." She said, "Well, where do you want me to take you?" And he had her drop him off at the graveyard. He was like, "I don't know that I really want to go out there, because that's just a scary place, even in the daylight." He was like, "Well, just take me to the end of the road." So she drops him off at the big gate. Now, she did not tell this man where she lived, but the next day around 12 o'clock, he comes walking up the driveway, and her mom's sitting there on the porch, shelling butter beans, and she's like, "Hey, there's some tall guy walking up the driveway." Grandma's like, "Oh, that's Sammy, the man I met last night." So by now, her friend and her mother have both seen this man. He's real. But most importantly, he was dressed in all black. So Sammy walks up where Grandma, her mom, and the little toddler are sitting on the porch shelling butter beans, and Sammy asks Grandma out on a date. So my grandma looks over at her mom, and her mom's like, "Yeah, go ahead, I'll watch the baby." Remember, he came up walking, but now they're driving in her car. So he tells Grandma along the way that he's made a little picnic out in the graveyard. And Grandma, being the kind of person that she was, didn't want to be disrespectful or ungrateful, so she agreed to go. They go out to the graveyard where she sees there is no picnic. He lied. There's no blanket, no food, no nothing. And now he's asking her all these personal questions, mainly about her faith and personal belief. He starts talking about religion. Do you go to church? What do you believe in? And then he starts debating with her a little bit about Christianity. Grandma always admitted she was never a perfect Christian. She sinned a lot. She made a lot of mistakes. But Grandma, being a faith warrior that she was, you could not dilute her faith. Like, she would fight you all day long about her God. She wouldn't push it on you, but if you debated her, she would defend it. Then Sammy asked Grandma, "Were you in love with the man you had that child by?" Grandma said, "Oh yeah, I thought we were going to get married. I fell head over heels for him." And Sammy said, "I know when you're lying." It really freaked her out, though, that he called her out on it like that. She could just see something in his eyes, like he knew she wasn't telling the truth, so she admitted, "No, I wasn't in love with him." The truth that everybody didn't know was Grandma and the baby daddy didn't even know each other. They had like a 1 or 2 night stand, got pregnant, and then because they didn't want to look bad, they told everybody they met, fell in love, were going to get married, and then the man abandoned her because he got cold feet. Sammy says, "But you weren't going to marry him either. He wasn't the only one with cold feet, was he?" Grandma was like, "Wait, we're the only 2 people who know what happened. How do you know that?" And Sammy loudly says, "I know everything." Then he tells her, "I want you to come be with me." He said, "You leave your child behind. It's just going to be you and me forever." And Grandma says, "Leave my child? I would never leave my child for anyone." And he says, "Yes, you would. You will for me." He said, "I know for a fact you would leave your child and your whole family to be with me." Grandma responds, "No, hell I wouldn't. I would never leave my child for anyone." But mentally, in her mind, she admits she would. Like, there's a weird little feeling in her mind that says she would leave her child because it feels like he's persuading her to think or feel that way. Trigger warning. Then he tells her he wants to know that she'll do anything for him, even if that means unaliving people, and he'll give her whatever her heart desires. And now she's terrified. Something was telling her, you're dealing with something very serious here, like a serial killer, a demon, something's going on, and it's not good. You better get the fuck out of here. So she jumps up to leave, and then he pulls her back down and says, "You can't leave until we're finished. You have to say yes or no." He says, "I know you need a partner and a father for your child." She said, "You said if we were together, I'd be abandoning my child." He said, "Well, that would be a stipulation of the deal." She said, "It sounds like you're trying to trick me." He said, "Well, some people do call me a trickster." He said, "All you have to do is agree to be with me. Just say the word yes, say it." She said, "No, I'm not making a deal, no." And then she starts thinking about the story her great-grandmother used to tell her about the man in black. So the man in black story dates back as far as we can remember, all throughout the southern states. And it's a very attractive man who dresses in all black and targets female victims of all ages, asking them to do his bidding or trying to make a deal. They call him a trickster for a reason because his deals never end well, never, and people believe that he's actually trying to take souls. So she used to wear this pendant that her mom gave her. It wasn't a cross, it was something else. So she grabs it and starts mentally praying, "Please don't let nothing happen to me or my child. Please protect us," because she's starting to freak out. She's scared. He backed up and said, "You're never going to agree to it, are you?" And she said, "No, you should know that if you know everything." So he stands up, looks down at her, and she said his pupils got so big his eyes looked black, like they were almost solid black. He said, "Too bad we couldn't make make a deal, but I will see you again in a few years. She said, no, you won't. He said, yes, I will. And then he disappeared as he walked behind the graves. She got so scared, her hands were shaking, her palms were sweating, almost about to throw up. So she got in the car and headed home. The whole way home, she kept thinking she was mentally breaking down. Like, was he even real? Did this happen? And then when she gets home, her mom says, well, how did the date go with Sammy? And she's like, so he is real. You did see him. And her mom was like, yeah. Where is he? What happened? And then she tells her mom, and her mom was like, holy shit. So her mom, being the religious fanatic that she was, takes grandma and the baby down to the river and has the preacher baptize them all over again because she thinks the devil's after them. Grandma said she don't know if he was a psycho, a serial killer, or a demon, but what she does know is he's real and he was there. And what's crazy, he was right. She saw him again 10 years later and he hadn't aged a bit. He came to her at her lowest point when her current husband was abusing her and her children. If you want to hear about that, I'll make a part 2.